Hi, everybody. Dave Clark from InspectCheck-net. Welcome to our YouTube channel and our Home Inspector Training Online playlist and homeinspectortrainingonline.com, also a website where we'll have links to all this. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a little controversial, and I know it's gotten me in some spirited discussions with people. We're going to talk about oil tanks. So we'll talk about oil tanks that are buried, oil tanks in basements or crawl spaces. This has been one of those issues where it's come up where there's been several problems. And I'm going to show you today one of the problems I had on an inspection with an oil tank. I am not a big fan, to be perfectly clear. I understand that some people really have no choice because of the way the house is situated, but I haven't seen too many oil tanks in new builds. They may be out there. We always recommend that the tank is removed and they change the fuel source. I know that's a heavy lift sometimes, and during a real estate transaction that does not go over well. But I can't remember the last time I saw an oil tank that I would consider in great condition. I'm sure there's some out there. I don't remember the last time that I didn't recommend that they switch to either natural gas, propane, or even electric. I'd rather see that. I've been involved in too many over the last 30 years, too many issues with oil tanks, inside, outside. The outside ones have had a lot of problems, leaking and things like that. So let's talk. I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's talk about oil tanks. So the first thing we're going to look at, and this is, I already marked it up, so there you go. So we'll take a look here, and if we see this on the outside of the house, this one in this case is coming out of the foundation, and we see the vent and the fill, right? So the vent is over here, and then the fill is over here, cap on it. We could also see those coming out of the ground or coming out of a crawl space. I've seen tanks in all three of those locations. So it doesn't matter. Part of part of the things we report on is where that tank is located. So we would say basement, crawl space, underground. And I think that's important to be able to identify where that is, so we can find it, and inform our client. Now we may not, they may be here, right, and the oil tank is just not there. It could have been removed and they just left these pipes there. I see that happen all the time too. All right, so I'm going to move over to, let's take a look at this oil tank, and we'll see that older tank. And you're gonna see I already marked it up a little bit. Definitely a little bit of oil dripping out from the bottom. See, we check the seams, make sure they're not leaking. The pipes, in this particular tank, was seeping oil everywhere. They had these, I don't know, they had these buckets here and trying to catch it. Older tank, not a lot of rust on it, but definitely some corrosion and definitely some oil. And my thing is, if it leaks 1 or 2 drops a day or a week, and it's been there for 30 or 40 years, that adds up to a lot, and that could end up being a big problem for our clients. So let me now show you the situation that I alluded to in the beginning here. Okay, so this is a typical one, but let me show you my situation that I had, and here we go. So I go down the basement, and here it is. This oil tank. Of course, there's a lot of rust on it, rust over here. We have a valve. Those are things, potential leaks. The line here is copper, and that's flexible copper. And many times that line goes into the concrete, as you see right here. Now, I have seen oil tanks where it's above the concrete. And to be honest with you, if it's above the concrete and protected, I would rather see that than into the concrete, because flexible copper is very soft. It could have a reaction with the concrete itself. The concrete could move and shift, crack, whatever, and cause a problem. If that starts to leak under the floor, we've got a big problem, and I'm going to show you something that we had a big problem with. Okay, so we're going to examine the tank anyway, right? Even though I'm going to recommend that the tank is removed, we're still going to examine it. We're not going to say we recommend this tank is removed and we're not going to examine it. So we still should take a look at it for condition. And if we do spot any of those things, of course, we're going to point them out. All right, so as we look at this particular house, and here we go. Here is the line coming out on the other side where the furnace was. So this house has been converted to natural gas. So the old oil burner is gone, but the line is still there. Okay, and it looks like somebody just squeezed it off at the top. You know, I'd rather see that completely gone, but it doesn't really matter. So they've done that. So I see that and I'm happy. The problem in this scenario is as we walk over to that area, we start to see some issues. Okay, and let me go right over here. This is the first issue we see. We walk up and I see I circled it for you. And it looks like, and this is just about following the line of where that oil line would go. And we see that there appears to be some oil here, right? You could just kind of see it, that it's kind of, you know, it's showing it, if you will. However, if you go over to here, and there's my footprint. Okay, so anyway, this one shows it clearly that there's oil coming through. So I'm standing there looking at this, and my client says these words, "Is that oil?" You know, and I look down at it, and I'm pretty sure that I already know the answer. So what I do is I go down, I touch it with my finger. It's clearly oil mixed with the water. It's on top of it. And this is happening in a few different spots there. So, you know, how do you advise your client at that point? And you have to say, look, the oil noted, coming from an area where the oil line could be. I mean, short of digging that up to see where the oil comes, but where's the oil coming? It's following that crack, which is following that underground copper pipe. And so there's a very good chance that that's where it's coming from. So, you know, that's how the report reflected that. And there's really not too many ways to get around that. So, you know, I want to be very clear that when I report these, I report that I recommend that they get rid of the tank. Now, what about if it's underground? Okay, we can't see it at all. We can see the pipes coming up, but it's underground. That is a big problem. Okay. We've been involved in a couple situations where that was an issue, and that is way beyond the scope of a home inspection. All we're going to do is alert them to that. So how could we report this properly with our client? Okay, so let me go over to our report. I'm going to tell you how I would do that. Okay, so here's our report opened up, and in InspectCheck, we're going to go to the plumbing tab, and that's where it is, fuel gas service. Okay, so we see a couple of things. Type of fuel, in this case, it would be oil stored in a tank, either inside or outside. Crawl space, examination, evaluation of the tank, surrounding areas, and environmental issues. Let me open this up for you. Feel free to, you can use this information if you want. Okay, let me just open it up right here. There you go. So stored in a tank, either outside or in the basement. Crawl space, examination, evaluation of the oil tank, surrounding areas, environmental issues are outside the scope of a visual home inspection. Recommend the tank is properly removed and areas near tank are evaluated by an environmental company. Now look, this is our boilerplate. A lot of inspectors love this. You don't have to use it. You could change it if you want to, or in whatever you use in your own. I like it because that's what I think. I think, you know, we can't be responsible for environmental issues. We recommend that the tank is removed. As far as evaluated by an environmental company, you know, I make that call sometimes. It depends on, in this case, yes. In this case, again, we have to look out for our client. So we'll put down where it comes in, and the meter location. In this case, it's going to be not a meter, but it's going to be the basement oil tank. Materials, again, we're using copper, and we're not a fan. We're saying the material is soft, could become kinked or damaged. Recommend removal of this and replacement with black iron. Again, that's our boilerplate, and we like that. Not a fan of copper. I know some people use it for grills. Not a fan of it. Shutoff valve, we see there's one on the tank. Okay, flexible lines, we're going to bypass all that. But what about if we see evidence of an oil tank or fuel tank. We just see the pipes coming out, but we don't actually see the tank. Or, right, so we can click on this, and it basically says similar, right? So let me open it up for you. It says evaluation of these units and surrounding areas are outside the scope. Recommend the tank is properly removed. Adjacent areas are evaluated by a qualified environmental company. So that's it. We want it gone. Okay, so we come back up here, and we could make changes to this, no problem. All right. This is where we're going to actually note the fuel tank. We noted oil, and we put oil fuel tank, and it's really pretty much the same. And we're you know, and again, we can change this. Evaluation of these units and surrounding areas are outside the scope. Recommend the tank is removed. Adjacent areas evaluated. And then here, I'm going to write in this particular case, and I hate doing this because, you know, I mean, this is going to create a problem, but it is what it is, you know. And I'm going to put some evidence. Oil leak under okay, we already said recommend they're evaluated. So evidence of oil leak under basement floor. Hate doing that because you know what's going to happen next. Mark that section complete. People aren't going to be happy, and of course we can come back here and add some of those photos if you want, and I did, of course. And you know, it's going to be one of those situations. So I know not everyone's going to agree with that. I know some people see oil tanks, they look at them. If there's not a leak, they just say they're good to go. And you could say that, but you could also say that I don't see any evidence of leaks. The tank is in good condition. However, you know, we recommend at your earliest convenience upgrading or not. You don't have to agree with me, but when you see the things that a lot of us have seen out there, we see that they create problems, and your client then is stuck with those issues. So I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel right here, and you'll be the first to get these videos. We've got great videos on our YouTube channel. We've got ones to help your business grow, marketing things. If you do use InspectCheck, we have InspectCheck videos. And of course, these are for everybody too. Training videos throughout the years. I've got so many of them, and I just enjoy doing this, and we get great feedback. Helps out some of the inspectors, some of the guys that have been around a long time, and girls, maybe they're not learning much, but I think a lot of them are really informative. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.